This is me, heart and soul. Here's a part of me the world may never know. Here's my story. When I lose, I let my guard down. Here's the naked truth. I let my guard down. Here's the naked truth. I let my guard down. I let my guard down. I let my guard down. Here's the naked truth.
My people, what's going on? It is 9 o'clock Eastern on the East Coast, and it is 6 o'clock p.m. on the West Coast, and y'all can fill it in between. Let me tell you how excited I am. How excited, how grateful, how overjoyed. I can go on and on and on, but let me introduce myself. My name is Monroe, aka He Smiles, your essential life coach, and I'm the host, the proud host of the Naked Truth Experience. And I want to welcome you to the brand new Naked Truth Experience in our new home on Facebook and YouTube. This is episode 21, y'all, and we are here. And we're here because you keep coming back. We're here because you keep sharing your truth. We are here, y'all, by the grace of God, because this is a spirit-led movement. And I could not be more proud of what is done here today in a collaborative effort. So listen, before I get to crying, come on in this room, y'all. Tell us where you are watching from, who you are. Say hello to your neighbor, right? This is community. Say hello to your neighbor and then let us know what you're sipping on. You know, I'm going to tell you what I'm sipping on a little bit later, but also get in those comments, y'all, because tonight your comment may be featured, and we have wonderful guests who have amazing insight and who've got a lot to contribute, but also you've got a lot to contribute. So we got to hear from you, y'all. Now, listen. Tonight, episode 21, we are talking about the truth about your vote. Hear what I'm saying, y'all? The truth about your vote. So yeah, we're going to dive into some politics tonight. But now let me say this. This is not about endorsing one candidate or the other. We are going to have some naked truth conversation about some of the things that a lot of us are feeling. Conversations I've been having with individuals or small groups, and we're now going to bring it to the forefront. And we've got some wonderful individuals who have some, again, amazing insight. Now, before we dive into the show, I want to remind you to please go to YouTube. Please go to Facebook, subscribe our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, right? Always follow us on IG so you can be up to date on what is happening with the Naked Truth Experience. And we have a new Facebook group, the Naked Truth Experience, where our conversations continue beyond the show. And I'm going to be in there, and we're going to be talking about things that are going to be happening on the show. And I want to hear from you. More community building, y'all. So make sure you go there. All right. Now, like I told you, I'm sipping on a little something. And tonight we have a featured wine. And the featured wine that I am sipping on is a 2013 Pinot Noir, Hilliard Bruce. Now, here's the thing. Each week I've been featuring a wine. If you, one of the viewers out there, have a wine that you think I should try, let a brother know, y'all. Get in them comments, get in the DM, slide on through, and let me know. I would love to feature a wine, especially if we have any Black winemakers out there. I'm going to give a shout out to a woman that I was virtually introduced to the other day. I hope she's watching. She's the maker of lovely wines. I am coming to you next. I want to be sipping on that next. So anyway, again, keep in the comments, y'all. It is time to introduce our guest. Again, I am so happy to introduce our panel of guests. Yes, I said panel. I don't have to just interview one person now. Now I can do 2 or 3, but tonight I have 2 as we talk about the truth about your vote. So the first guest that we have here tonight He is a commentator, political commentator, and author, Mr. Quentin Jiles. Y'all say what's up, what's up, what's up, Quentin Jiles. Y'all see him down there.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, sir? We're going to be coming right back to you. Good to see you. And then our next guest, y'all, she is a nonprofit director and a community organizer, Miss Kula Koenig. And she is in my city, y'all, Sacramento, California. Kula, what you sipping on over there?
Huh? They just pour me some wine, something in the fridge. I don't even know what it is. Usually it's vodka, but I'm trying to be good because I'm on this podcast now. I got you. Check myself.
You good. Y'all, this is Kula. Let's bring our guests on. I am so happy to have all of you guys here today. I don't see any comments yet, so let some of those comments start coming through. Hello, y'all. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Hello, doing great. While y'all sip wine, I'll be sipping my water. So
come on, Aquafina. Come on, hydrate.
Going to the gym?
Listen, this brother over here, because I follow him on IG. This brother, he be in that gym religiously. So the gyms just opened back up here in New York and New Jersey. I'm not saying I'm gonna be in one tomorrow, but I'm
saying it's open.
I'm just saying it's open. So listen, we got some folks that are coming in. They're coming in from Newark, New Jersey, Sacramento, California. I just want to San Francisco, born and bred, but living in Sacramento, California. I just want to say, first of all, thank you all for coming on. What y'all think about this new setup? I don't know if you've seen the show before, but what do you think about this? Just let me know, because I'm feeling good right now. How you feel? You feel all right?
Hi, Tracy.
Listen, you know people in here, huh?
Listen, yeah, I know people, okay?
Wait a minute. That's just like black folks, right? Black folks, we be on stage, you be like, hey, girl, how you doing? But how y'all feeling? Because I'm feeling pretty good. Like I said, this is the first setup for our YouTube and Facebook, and I'm glad y'all are here. So I love it. Yeah. Julian Cunningham said you kill him on TikTok. So Quentin, you got a few fans out here. I see you.
There are grown people on TikTok?
There are Kula. Don't do it. Quentin.
Yes.
Shots fired.
Don't do TikTok. Let me tell you this. I'll say this. You can say a lot of things you want about TikTok, but they the only ones passing out cash to their creators. So, so you can get a coin on TikTok. You can get a coin on TikTok. Okay?
Come on. Listen. That's real though. Like, cause out here, listen, it ain't cheap living. You hear what I'm saying? It ain't cheap living. So we got to get out here and get this coin. But anyway, y'all, I want to kind of dive in. Tonight we're talking about the truth about your vote. Kula, I was recommended to you by someone who's very near and dear to me in Sacramento, California. And she was like, yo, you need to have this woman on the show. And just in my first few minutes of conversation with you, you were like, hey, I this is naked truth, so we keep it real. You were like, I don't know if this going to be the right show for me. Because you were like, if this going to be just the regular old get out and vote kind of show, that is not who I am. And I said, no, this is the naked truth experience. We talk about it. And she was like, oh, okay. Oh, no. I feel better. So Kula, thank you for being here tonight. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about you before we dive in? And Quentin, I'm going to come to you. Just tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and what you're passionate about.
Lee, my passion is around organizing, community organizing. It's around getting these Sacramento County elected officials together. Yeah. It is about just highlighting all the fucking that goes on. Oh, all
yes,
the mess.
This is the naked truth. You fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Highlighting all of the fuckery that goes on, and just really kind of unearthing all of it and helping people so they understand how to really, get in their elected officials' faces and say, hey, y'all, what y'all doing is not right. So that's my passion. That's a little bit about me. I was born in West Africa, Liberia. So yes, first generation. And I love Sacramento. I love the community and happy to be on the show.
Dope. That's what's up. Glad to have you. Quentin, man, like I said, I follow you. Quentin's an author, and I have his book, Listen Niece, which is a 30-day devotional. So I'm familiar with you in that regard. And then also I see a lot of your political commentary, which is actually very funny. So Quentin, and we have something in common. I'm also a MSW. You're a social worker. So we have that in common, sir.
Yes.
Quentin, tell us a little bit about yourself and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, well, you kind of already ran the bio down a little bit. I'm an author, political commentator, and that is what I love to do. I love to take the state of politics and just make it easy for people to understand. Because what I recognize is that even though I like to get into the nitty gritty of it, a lot of people don't pay attention because either the news talks over their head or they don't have a point of reference. So really, I just take what I'm watching anyway and just talk like I'm talking to my cousin across the table. And I just happen to do that online and on TV from time to time.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I'm passionate about, like, helping people understand and talking in lay terms. I don't even like the term lay terms, just talking so they know what's going on.
Know what's going on. So here's
Yeah.
my naked truth. I always usually start out by revealing what is kind of behind this show. I'll be 40 years old this year. And since I was 18, I have exercised my civic right, and my civic duty and my right to vote, right? I've done that. But my naked truth is that I have not been that politically informed. Okay. And that's actually right. This is I'm putting it out there. So I voted, but many times I have voted according to the party in which I identified with, right? And to your point, and I'm sure Kula, you see this in your organizing, there is so much information that goes on out there. And depending on what is happening in my life or somebody else's life, it may be daunting or overwhelming to even think about, right? Watching the RNC, the DNC, making sure you got CNN on all the time, making sure you're keeping up with, the New York Times and the Washington Post, and then hearing the coonery from, different places here. And then what do I trust? What do I believe? The lies, what's the truth, fact finding, fact checking, like it for me, I'm speaking for me. And if there's other people out there in the audience that can relate to what I'm saying, put that in the comments, right? Because we're going to go there tonight. And so for the first time, right, in understanding how critical this election is, and because I have this platform, I'm like, hold on, I don't want to just vote because I'm going to put this out there. They said, people say, listen, people died for you to vote. And that's real, right? People sacrificed. But we also have a generation of folks that aren't just hearing that anymore, and that have lost hope and trust in the system. So now I'm starting to hear things like, what's the purpose of me even voting, right? And so I want to get into that. I just want to just kind of lay that out there, that I have myself not been informed, but then I'm seeing some of the shenanigans on all sides.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do we do? Yeah. How do we inform ourselves? So let's start there. To the people, and I want responses from both of you, to the people that you may hear that say, does my vote even matter? Does it even count? You need 270 votes from the electoral college in order to win, and somebody can win even if they didn't win the popular vote. What is your response to people that says, like, my vote doesn't even matter?
Right. I would say, well, it depends on what's important to you, right? Because I'll say this, I started off by saying that I immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 8, and I actually couldn't become a citizen until 2012. But I was always involved in politics, right? So I couldn't vote, but I was involved in politics. And so I feel like, we kind of get sidetracked and say, vote, 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 which is important. But that's not the end all and be all, right? But your vote really is important. As soon as I did become a citizen, I was like, you know what? I am about to vote, because it is important that I go through all of the ways of being involved, and voting is one of the ways of being involved, right? They look at who to target and what kind of information to send, all of that based on the population and their voting threshold. And so if you're not involved, then they're just not going to pay attention to you at the same time. They're going to be like, that population doesn't vote anyway, so we don't need to even care about courting their vote. So that's why it's important.
Yeah.
Quentin, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with everything you just said. For me, I think it's super important to vote because your voice literally matters. And to your point about, people feel like, well, is it even important to vote, in the presidential election because they have to win the electoral college and can lose the popular vote? We talked in our private conversation. I look at voting like a chessboard, right? And for me, I know that my tax dollars employ these people. So at the end of the day, they work for me, right? And I can't get them as their boss. I can't get them to do what I want them to do or to create laws that benefit me unless I go out there and exercise my voice to vote. So at our local level, it's very straightforward. It's a vote for a vote, right? I think of that as checkers, but for the presidential level, it is more of a chess piece because there is more strategy that goes into it. But I would say if you don't think your vote matters, look at the recent protests that we have, right? So one could say it doesn't matter who the president is because they can lose the president, they can lose the popular vote, but still win the presidency. That person is also the commander of the armed forces, right? Now, whether you support the person in the Oval Office or not, okay, let's sit that aside. If you have people on the street that the person in the Oval no longer agrees with and decides as the commander of the armed forces, they are going to send the armed forces to dismantle and disrupt whatever you're doing in the streets. I would dare say that that's an issue, right? Because our armed forces are supposed to protect our country outside of the country. And so, yes, it absolutely, that is just a small, minute example, right? But it absolutely matters who the president is because the president has certain powers that nobody else has.
I want to bring something up because I recently had.
Do you guys see Shalita's comment?
Yeah, no, she's saying she's not voting because she doesn't trust the government, nor does she support any candidates, right? The history of sexual abuse towards women, right? And this is something where also it kind of leads into like, so is it okay just to vote for the lesser of the two evils, which a lot of people end up saying that if they are going to exercise their right to vote, that's what they're going to do, right? Because you can bring up. And this is that thing about losing faith in the political system or the political candidates. Like, so for people who say there isn't anybody out there who is going to be worthy of my vote because everybody got skeletons in their closet or everybody has some dirt that they could pull up. What's your response to that, right? Because I'm hearing a lot of it, not just from her. What's
conversation, the focus on the presidential race, because I think that's where people get caught up, right? So I'm very much involved I'm very much a proponent of local politics. Because if you think about it, if you look at your day-to-day life, right? For example, the county of Sacramento has a $4.4 billion budget, and they're spending 75% of that on law enforcement and only a smidgen going to public health. So that affects you. That affects Health and Human Services and your safety net. So it's really important for people to also not just think, okay, everybody talks about the presidential race, but local matters. Your school board member matters. It's your neighborhood and the what you see in your day to day. So that really, really matters. Now, regarding the presidential race, it's not the lesser of two evils. Donald Trump is terrible for America, and he has deregulated so many things. He has instilled so much hate. It is absolutely essential to go and vote. It's not just, okay, find the lesser of two evils. It's not that simple. There's lives at stake.
Quentin.
Yeah, I would agree. See, and I like to think of local and federal as equally important. And I think historically, so long we've only we looked at the presidential, like that's where everybody, shines a light on, but there is work to be done at the local level. This might be a little taboo. If a person, one, you're never going to find a perfect candidate. That's one. So we can scrap that out of our head. Nobody is going to be perfect. Somebody is always going to have something that you do not agree with. If you happen to find somebody that you 100% align with, then, I don't know what it is. Right. And that person could just be placating to what they think you want to hear. Right. But what I will say is, out of the two options, there are third-party candidates. I know that's not a popular thing to look at or discuss, but if we're going to be civically engaged and civically involved, then there are other candidates that you could look at. I don't look at those as wasted votes because, again, now this is just my mentality. This is Quentin. I pay my own individual taxes. When y'all start paying my taxes, then you tell me where I can fall and where my vote is, right? That's on the base of my ideology. However, in the same breath, I still look at voting as a chess game. And so I have to look at these candidates and figure out, based on where each one of these people stand, who would be in the position to get me what I want? What am I going to get more of? Even though I may totally align with this third-party candidate, but do I think that I'm going to get my progressive ideas pushed through more in a Joe Biden presidency or Donald Trump presidency? or a third party candidacy, right? So again, two things can be true at once. My tax dollars is my vote, but at the same time, who is going to get me what I want, knowing that I'm not going to get everything I want?
But Quentin, is the third party candidate, a vote for the third party candidate, essentially a vote for Donald Trump?
No, I don't subscribe to that.
Okay.
I don't subscribe. I feel like that's fear mongering. I feel like that's a fear tactic, and that's fear mongering. You can say what you want to say about, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump winning and Jill Stein coming in and taking that vote. Who's to say that Jill Stein took Hillary Clinton vote? People just ascribe that to she took from Hillary Clinton. Those people very well could have been people that said, I'm not voting for anybody, and then decided to go vote, for Jill Stein. So I don't subscribe to the notion that somehow it'll pull from the Democrat, because you have disenfranchised Republicans that might vote for a third party candidate because they can't vote for a Democrat. At the end of the day, again, your tax dollars, your vote.
Kula, do you have anything to add about that as far as your stance on third party candidates?
And I'm listening, and I understand like the rationale saying well, it's my tax dollars, is my vote. But I think about it in the way, so you talked about strategy, right? So even I'll just keep it local. So we have a very controversial race for Sac County supervisor, right? There was a candidate who was super progressive. We knew that, she wouldn't, she didn't have all of the money and all the backing, whatever. But as a group, my group, Coapa, we supported her. We supported her in the primary, right? We knew what was happening. But when it's coming in the general, we're like, okay, now we gotta marshal. We gotta get this together. Same thing we did with Governor. When he was going against, Newsom was going against Delaney Easton. Delaney was like, so many checks, so many more of those boxes. And so we recommended her in that primary. But in the general, we're like, okay, we know what's up, right? And so I think that when you're thinking about strategy, it does matter. And we have to. I have to disagree with Quentin on that point, because I think once we start saying, okay, well, you can vote for your the third party candidate, and your vote is not wasted, you end up with a George Bush or a Donald Trump. And so unless we're going to change the way the system is. In this way, the system is set up as a two-party system. So until we change it, so where we're other places where you have all these different different parties that are viable, then we can start to have those conversations. But until then, it's like we can shoot ourselves in the foot. And I actually would really love to see numbers, because I haven't looked at it, but I would love to see numbers that show that if Democrats or Republicans voted more for this third party candidate, and if that took away the votes. I hear it from the Democratic side regarding George Bush and Hillary Clinton, but I wonder, and from the other side, right, if that happens.
Right. So let me say this, because I think this might help you. Well, not help you, but this might kind of unpack a little bit more of that disagreement. What I'm saying is, I'm talking about at the core of, I'm compartmentalizing these things, right? I'm talking about at the core of it, because I think people have been fear-mongered into thinking you can only vote Republican, Democrat, or not at all. That's the frame that I'm coming from with this, and I just don't believe that to be true. I believe that at the core of it, right, you have the right to vote how you want to vote. So when I say that, what I'm trying to do is tear down this notion that we've always had, that you are stuck voting one way or the other. Because you're Black, you're automatically a Democrat, or because you're white in middle America, you're automatically a Republican, and it can be nothing else in between that. So that's where I come from that perspective. But I definitely believe voting is still strategic, right? Because that can be true. I can still really want a third party candidate. However, if I'm thinking strategically, I might just have to jump on board and vote for the Democrat. So that's what I was saying in that.
And if I can just add, I also think, we have to be, and again, like I said, I work on the local level. So I go back with even some of the folks that are Dems that we have, that they're not really playing ball with us, right? So we also have to think about building the bench for candidates that we can get excited about, right? So starting 2-4 years in advance. This is the kind of thinking that I'm doing now, so that we can get those people who really are progressive into office and not have to feel like we're voting for the lesser of two evils, because it just so happens. So we have to be strategic, and we have to play the long game.
Let me take our conversation in a little bit of a different direction. I'm going to read a quote from Barbara Ransby, who wrote "Making All Black Lives Matter." The protests and transformative justice movement that emerged under the banner of the Black Lives Matter movement and later the Movement for Black Lives rejected representative politics as a stand-in for substantive change in the condition of Black people's lives. So my question is, there is a lot of synergy. There's a lot of energy and excitement around, obviously, the potential of having the first African-American woman in the White House, in the VP, and Kamala Harris, right? My question is, are Black people tired of representative politics and therefore are unwilling to endorse or vote for someone just because they're Black without some indication of them being a real change agent? And anybody can start with that.
I'm always talking, so I'm always like making sure I'm not taking.
No, please.
But I'm someone who was Elizabeth Warren supporter.
Oh my gosh, me too.
And that is because that is because I look at, and I really think we say this a lot, and a lot of people say all skin folk and kin folk, right? Like we have certain values, progressive values that we stand behind, and if you are willing to disrupt a system that is the status quo, then we are not just going to vote for people just because they are Black. That has gotten us in trouble. That is dangerous. And it means it posits that we can't think for ourselves. So that's dangerous. And I think that people are hip to the game. They're like, no, what else you got?
Yeah.
You know? So
so let me say this. Elizabeth Warren was definitely my candidate too. So I'm still down with Lizzie. Lizzie 2024. That's my Lizzie girl. But I'll say this. I do think it's important for representation, right? So let's give Kamala that. But I think that we are moving. Yeah, it's definitely, representation is a real thing. So I don't think that you were trying to discount her in any way that way. But I just want to make sure, we put that out there. But I do think, depending on where your ideology lies, absolutely, we're not just gonna vote for you simply because you're Black. Because if we want to be quite honest, I feel like Elizabeth Warren was more down for the crew than the people that we have right now. If you just talk about that she's a white, blonde hair, blue-eyed lady, look at Sis' policies and look at Sis' track record. Sis been down for the crew. You know what I'm saying? So excuse me. Well, now you know what I'm saying. I done got a little comfortable.
Come on, get comfortable. This is. I told y'all in the beginning. This is this family. Go on, sit back, get comfortable, kick your shoes off.
Wait a minute now. Cause see, I didn't know I had another Warren Dim over there.
Well, there you go. Come on.
And this wasn't even planned, right? But I do think that we are in a moment or in a movement that is not enough. Like, I'll be the first to say, absolutely. My first time voting was in 2008, and I definitely voted for Barack Obama because he was Black. I didn't know not a one single policy. I was 18. It was like, woo, let's vote. I can finally do that. And he's the first Black guy. So yeah, absolutely. That is what happened. And in that 8 years of me getting myself educated, this is not a knock towards Barack Obama. There's so much more that could have been done, right? But then we have to fall into ideology. My ideology and Barack Obama's ideology are not the same. That doesn't make him bad, and that's not going to make me discount him as the first Black president. He get his ups and his props. We still love Auntie Shell. But if we're talking about what I want, my vote, right? What I want, Obama didn't really line up with that. So no, now it's not enough for me to just vote for somebody for the sake of them being Black. So I need to know what you want to do.
So let me ask you, and Quentin, today I read the viewer who said that based on your videos, he now is taking an interest in politics and he wasn't going to vote, right? So you have posted that today, right, from the Q with Q. And so how do we then speak to the generation, right? What is the message that we give to the generation about voting if that is the only thing that at this point, because you voted for Barack Obama, I wasn't 18, I was a little bit older than that, but but I did, I was like, yo, I'm with the brother. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I was well into my adulthood. So how do we then speak to the individuals that's like, listen, the only reason why I may be voting is because there is a Black woman who is now on the ticket, because there was a lot of people that was not messing with Biden. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
and I'm not making this show about an endorsement of any candidate. I want that to be very
Right.
clear. I'm really
Right.
just wanting to have a conversation about the truth about our vote. But I'm like, then what is the message that we give to individuals who are just like, yo, I'm with the sister, I'm with the brother, and how do we have them start to have a very critical lens into actually what's beneath just the skin color? Like,
Right.
how are we going to look at that track record? I don't know about Elizabeth Warren, and again, that's my naked truth. I don't know her track record, and so I'm placing myself in that category with individuals who look and see who's on the ticket, and like, okay, I'm rocking with her. Like, what's the message? What's the message?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Quentin.
No,
sorry. Go.
Sorry, I was gonna brag on Lizzie again. I was gonna say find out because we missed out on a good one. But I think that comes from, so I think that might be individually in our sphere of influence. So like I can just take my brother right now. I have a 14-year-old brother, and bless him. He goes to a white private school, right? And so we've had conversations just about civil unrest in the streets and stuff, and his opinions I wasn't ready for. I didn't know. I didn't know that that's where he was, right? And take that for what you will. So I say that to say, like, I'm having conversations with him to help him. I want to understand how he thinks, and I want him to understand how he thinks, right? And so instead of just beating him over the head and say, hey, the cop was wrong, or hey, don't just vote for somebody because they're black, I start talking to him in a way of like, okay, so what is it that you want? Like, how do you see the world? How would you want this thing to happen, right? Point A, whatever. How do you want that to be? And so, okay, if that's how you want that to be, this is what this person says about that. Is that okay with you? Or is that something you're willing to sacrifice or not? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're making decisions on that. So that's just me. I'm not one to beat somebody over the head because I just don't think that works. But I think, and this could be the social worker in me, helping people really think about what they think, because sometimes people operate in something that's not really what they believe on the surface of it, right? So that's just what I think. If any of that made sense, I hope it did.
Yeah, Kula, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that when you started this, you said, it's a lot of work, or it's a lot of information over there. We have to take the time to also educate ourselves, not just every 4 years or every 2 years, but it has to be a consistent thing. And that's my passion. My passion is, finding the way that folks can be consistently engaged in a way that works for them, so that again, you can you can start to see on a local level how things are affecting you. You get involved in that level, and then you start to see the importance of looking at the presidential election and all of that. But it can't just be, it's 4 years and I've been in my bubble, and now you're telling me to come out and vote and pay attention. It can't be that way. And so we can't be lazy. We cannot. And so, because then when things happen, we're like, holy hell, how did that get there? Because we weren't paying attention. And that's what happened.
But I
Camille,
also think
I want to say this real quick. Camille says it is inherently racist assumption that Black folks vote primarily by identity politics. Release that myth from your psyche. We are intelligent and powerful voting bloc. What's your response to that, to Camille's comment?
Agreed.
I mean, absolutely agree. The group, so I run Black Women Organized for Political Action, and there was a race here, local race, and we didn't support the Black man candidate. We actually supported a Hmong woman. And it was crazy, the shade that we got. People actually called us like anti-Black, right? And which means they also forgot that we were women, right? And that whole identity. And we also said, look, we talked about this from the jump. We talked about our values. We interviewed. We debated. And to come at us because you're like, how dare you not vote for this Black man? How dare you vote for a Hmong woman? Is also to negate the fact that, one, we thoughtfully made our decision. You may not agree, and that's totally fine. Yeah, but don't just knock us because we didn't endorse the Black man, and as a Black woman organization, how dare we not do that? And that was very insulting to us.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
It is, because you're expected as a Black woman to always fall in line behind the Black man. Like, let's call a thing a thing. And so again, but I like what you said. Crap, I just lost the word. Research. Like,
yeah.
again, it goes back into, your politics, what you believe. The fact that you just sat up here and told me you was I'm sorry, I'm going back to Warren. Not that I'm like gonna have a soft spot for you now, but it lets me know that I feel like it lets me know that you were looking outside of that, right? And that's okay. I do think there's some truth to, like, okay, Black people got to support Black people. But I mean, at the end of the day, if I got a Black candidate that's standing up saying, everything is fine, there's no racial injustice, everything, I'm not voting for you. So
Yeah.
we're not standing up for
But
everybody.
if you're a Black candidate and you about this, are you kidding me? I'd rather die for you. I had a fundraiser for someone. I never do no fundraiser for nobody. Like, she's a sister running for office. And I'm like, absolutely. But we have to be strategic and think about what's best for us,
Yeah. I want to shift the conversation a little bit. And I want to talk about privilege. I know now I'm going to step through this one because I know it might get a little. Had a conversation the other day where somebody asked me specifically, so were you really, or have you really been affected, or how have you been affected these last years in the Trump administration? Okay, as a Black man here, right? And I'm asking this conversation about privilege because I feel like there are individuals who may be Black folks who are homeowners, college educated, professionals, so on and so forth, who may answer that question and say, well, really, outside of the rage of the racial injustice of who I am, like, I mean, if Donald Trump gets into office for another 4 years, it may not really impact me so severely, because I mean, my income didn't change, my housing status didn't change.
I paid more taxes.
I kept my job. Well, and these are, and so again, I'm putting this out there because if that's our response, and also recognizing that that's coming from a place of a certain privilege, and not recognizing that there are the marginalized and the individuals who are most impacted, that look like us, right? And then also, again, just because we are college educated does not mean, right, they're killing Black men in the streets every day. They're killing Black trans women in the street, right? Like in the Breonna Taylor in the house, and still haven't brought forth her killers, right? So all of this is happening regardless of kind of like your economic status. But what is your response, and how do you address privilege for someone who may say, listen, if Donald Trump gets in office for another 4 years, I mean, yeah, it's going to be bad for the emotional state of our people or the emotional state of the U.S. But I mean, we Black folks, we used to dealing with adversity. We're used to, overcoming oppression. I told you I was going there, so I'm just putting it out there. Kula, come on, because she picking out her hair, everything. So what's going on? When a Black woman gets to like, now listen, wait here now. Kula, talk to me about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's definitely, I sit from a place of privilege. I'm not even gonna lie, but I think also about I think about the environment. I think about the policies that he has. I think about our education system and who he has as his Secretary of Education, and her focus on basically privatization and how that even affects our kids and their education, right? I think about housing. Housing is so important. And who he has, Ben Carson, who doesn't even know what the heck HUD is supposed to do, can't even answer the questions. And you're thinking about housing policies for folks. And to me, even though it's not quote unquote directly affecting me, I'm a human being who lives in this world and who cares about what happens to other people. But I also care about what happens to me, because if my neighbor is not doing well, then I feel like then I'm not doing well, right? And I think about this coronavirus. This coronavirus is affecting me. I mean, if you like, this is the way that this president has handled this, or I should say mishandled this, the way that he addresses the public, the way that he addresses public health, right? Doesn't even like it's impacting the ability to work, right? I'm not gonna don't want to talk about my personal life, but like a like my partner being like, okay, am I gonna keep working? Like, you know, what's gonna happen, right? And so those things are my sister who is works in the ICU, right? And I'm like worried about her, right? And so it absolutely matters. It matters because kids are now in the homes, can't go back to school, and they're in homes where they're being abused, right? And CPS is closed and they can't do all of the checks that they were supposed to do. So that's rampant. Suicide in our young people is going up because they're now even more isolated. So it absolutely affects who is your leader. It affects it in a, maybe you don't see it in a day-to-day if you're in a more privileged way, but if you think about your environment, right? Think about the economy. People care about that, I think, right? So absolutely.
Quentin, your
Yeah.
response?
Yeah, you know, at a I would say to anybody with that position at a basic level, you know, do you care for other people? Because this is how I've been looking at. I'll give you an example how I've been looking at it. So I have another brother. I have quite a few brothers, but I have an older brother who has three beautiful children. Two of my nephews, the way they choose to, you know, set up their house, two of my nephews goes to a Muslim school, right? Great chance that they might become a practicing Muslim, even though their parents are not technically pushing it on them, but they go to a Muslim school. I'm a follower of Christ, right? So we clearly have two different worldviews of who God is. Now, I could say in this place of privilege, because I'm in a place of privilege too. Yeah, my 401k and my stocks, you know, Trump is doing something with a little change, but at the same time, how do I look at a Muslim ban and not see my nephews? And even if it wasn't my nephews, right? But how do I look at something like that? Or how do I look at kids on the border dying and it's not a big deal and not see the person that's bagging my groceries at the fiesta? So for those people that have this, sit in this place of privilege, it, to me, it's almost as if, do you think that this couldn't happen to you? You know what I'm saying? Just because, so the Muslim ban was there. Oh, we had uproar. Hispanic people or people of Spanish descent dying on the border. Oh, you know, we had a little uproar. Why wouldn't you think that at a certain point, black people wouldn't be targeted in a certain way? Even if you've listened to him, his interview with the, I don't know her name, the black lady on Fox News, when he said that people debate, you know, how great Abraham Lincoln is. Her response was, well, you know, we're free now. His response was like a scoff, as if, well, yeah, you know, yeah. So it's almost as if that place of privilege, especially if we're talking about black people, do you not think that that could be you? Do you not see yourself as that black man or black woman being shot in the street? Because as much privilege as we have, it still could be you. And so that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. And I even brought my brother's example up because my brother is not he's so he's a Bernie supporter. And so when Kamala was even named, he wasn't excited at all and said he wasn't gonna vote. And I'm like, how could you not vote? You're raising two boys that go to a Muslim school, and the man that's running for office again will target your children. How could you not vote? Like, so how are you thinking? What you're saying and your actions, does it line up with what you really think and what you want? That's how I look at it.
And I'll just add really quickly, personally, I think about, I wouldn't have been able to, it would have been harder for me to become a citizen if I came to the United States under Donald Trump presidency, right? It just, right. It wouldn't have happened. And all of the struggles that I went through to become a citizen and all the hoops, but it just, I was undocumented. And so, so that definitely wouldn't have, I would have got Nathan, right? Yeah. So
yeah. Our producer, we got a good question here. U.S. blacks have voted in record numbers in the last two presidential and congressional elections for the lesser of the two evils, and we are still treated like second-class citizens. Therefore, our approach must be wrong. Traditionally, groups that have been discriminated against, except for us blacks, have used their economic power to buy a candidate who in turn resolve the problems with the police, housing, discrimination, etc. Again, Rob, what's your response to that?
Yeah, I'll say actually before I just got on this, I was in a so I'm in Houston, Texas. I was on a call with some other leaders that are trying to strategize and what can we do. And one of the main things was about that economic power, right? I don't know if I would say buying a candidate. I don't know how I feel about that language, but I understand where he's going with it. But that economic power is a real thing. So even here in Houston, we almost have two Chinatowns, right? Like the Chinese community, say what you will about it, baby, they're going to keep that dollar circulating in their own before it even leaves their community. And for us, we are more we're more consumers than we are the providers, right, for goods and services. And so we started talking about those things and what that looks like to build economic power, because that's where it lies, right? Even if we get up and vote, we still go and take our dollars to the people that somehow oppress us, right? Somehow it's going to get through. Rachel Maddow did an amazing exclusive about the Koch brothers and how we actually empower them. And for long story short, Koch brothers are these two super ridiculously rich men that fund Republican candidates that have stocks in privatized prisons. But we interact with them so much you wouldn't even know. That paint, that blue paint behind you, something in that paint the Koch brothers make. So when you bought that paint, they got a coin off of it. And the expose that she
coming
did
down.
is like, even if you wanted to get rid of them, you couldn't, because they're so integrated. But what is that? That's economic power. That's industry, and they're in multiple industries. Look at Amazon. I'm not saying Amazon is racist or anything, but I'm just saying the industry, right? They have an economic power, and so that's what we need to have. Now, what that looks like, I don't know. Everybody's going to be different. Every Black person's about to open up a restaurant, and I love it. I love to eat, but we need to do something other than restaurants too, So that's my spiel.
Kula, you have anything on this, on that comment there from Gain Rob?
I absolutely agree. I mean, when you look at what we just had, the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington, and you look at just kind of where you look at our numbers, yes, I think as Black people, our income have risen, but our wealth hasn't, in terms of really building wealth and passing it through generations. And so I absolutely agree. I think our strategy needs to change. And I'm trying to look at it from the supporting candidates from like in the long game and thinking about who is really going to be there for us to actually change those policies, like the commenter said, and then actually marshaling our resources, right? Building our own. So I started a Social Justice Now PAC, right? And so being able to support those candidates who are going to get up there and change those policies. But I absolutely agree from an economic perspective, because we live in a capitalist society. Unfortunately, it's capitalism. It is capitalism. And I work for a nonprofit. It's always crazy because it's like we're so dependent on these businesses to give us donations to do the good work, but that they're perpetuating. So it's just like a really like when you think about it, it just makes you like.
Listen, we've got another viewer comment. Our producer is letting us know. So let's see this from Camille Wise. This administration really showed me my own privilege as a cis het woman. Not only did Black folks' lives not matter, Black trans women's lives and deaths aren't even acknowledged. I became more aware of people in our community who have even more intersections than I. Wow, that's powerful, because on this show, thank you, Camille, for bringing that up. On this show, we have consistently, made sure that we have represented the full spectrum of our Black community, including our trans men and women who are often pushed aside by the Black community. Let's say that. And that's truth, and that's fact, because if there is privilege that is within the community, that certain intersections then are further marginalized. So it's interesting, again, Camille, how you I thank you for saying that comment, because in these times, how the folks who have always been at the bottom, it's exacerbated by an administration who then is pushing everybody, and you're seeing everybody. So you're looking around and you're like, oh my goodness, right? I think there was, how many trans women who are killed on a daily basis. I did a show on that, and by the American Medical Association, it was deemed an epidemic. And yet that is still not the daily news. That is still not, there are still not outcries unless there are from allies or for individuals who are they themselves part of the trans community. So I think that was interesting. Privilege or not, our country will continue to be divided because we do not value humanity, the human race.
Somebody else said something. Sorry, it was a previous comment while you were talking. They asked it. Yep, that's the one. That's do more millennials need to run for office to change the nature of politics? Yes and no. Millennials, great. I mean, you could be young and still have terrible ideas. So,
hey, I'm a millennial. Technically, I'm an older millennial.
Where does that stop? Where does it? Because am I still in there? Yeah, I'm still in there, right? 40.
I don't know, Monroe. You about to be 40 right now.
40? No, I think you just aged out because I think it stops at 38 right now. I think you just aged out. Sorry, bro. Anyway, to us young folks. No, I'm like, but I definitely think yeah, I would say yes. I think younger people running would galvanize more people. Look at AOC. AOC has like great, ideas and policies, right? But the fact that she's a young woman, I think there is a bit of identity politics that goes into play with that, right? So younger people see themselves being represented. So I do think that younger millennials or younger people need to run. But I think like what Kula was saying with her, you said with your PAC, like you all have funds over here looking for candidates. But you said earlier too, which I thought was great, was like pre-thinking like 2-4 years down the line, like let's groom you, not and groom is such a bad word. Let's get you in position now. Let's start working these things out now. So when we put you out there, we already have the finance and boom, you're our gal or you're our guy. Right. So I do think younger people need to be in politics. Younger people need to be in these spaces because the world is changing. And so we know, how things are going, and older people sometimes don't. I remember watching part of a hearing over social media companies and and because there is some damaging effects of social media and stuff that really does need to be regulated. But the old men in Congress didn't even know, they didn't even know what they were talking about. And so then that made me lead to like, well, who's on your staff? You can't have younger people on your staff that know. If you don't know what you're talking about because the candidate, your staff is doing all the research and the work. So if you don't know, your staff don't know, which leads me to believe your staff is old and out of touch as well. So I would say yes, but not every young person needs to run.
Also, we're getting tired.
I just wanted to say Pew's research, thank you, my brother T.L. Gray, said that the Pew's research says millennials in 1980 to 1996. I love the fact checkers because I was like, y'all not going to push me out. That's what you're not going to do. Not on my show. Not today. Not today.
On a good dope, apparently.
I'm 1980, brother. 1980.
Like I said,
what did I say? Didn't I say right there? I said
Listen. I'm still 1980. So thank you.
That means Monroe needs to run for office.
Listen,
he's a millennial. He's ready.
Listen, we got one more comment. Let's see here. So rather than just pulling resources to buy candidates, which further supports capitalism and elitism, we could or should support those activists in our own communities who do the advocacy work on or all of our behalf and hold these elected officials accountable. Because that actually that piece of accountability, and Kula, I want to come to you because I know you have a comment there, but just know that we're going to transition as we get ready to close out into the accountability. What happens after the vote, after the election? Go ahead.
So it's really important to have, and this is becoming more apparent, to have an inside and outside strategy, right? So I think we have in Sacramento a pretty strong outside strategy with the activists trying to hold elected officials accountable, unearthing things. But if you don't have an inside strategy, meaning you don't have that powerful, progressive inside that's work that you're literally giving cover for to do the good work, then you end up just banging your head against the wall. So you have to have an inside strategy. I think we forget because we think, okay, fine, we're the activists, we're doing all these things. We can strong mayor. So many people called in and said no, and you know what? It still went on the ballot, right? Because you didn't have people inside who cared enough. And so you have to have that inside strategy.
Quentin, anything on accountability or just comments in there? What do we do after the vote? What do we do after the vote?
You keep
working.
You having meetings. You let them know you watch them. I was watching the county board of supervisors, and I called and I said, I just want you to know that I heard what you said, and I appreciate that you came and you were thoughtful with your comments. You didn't just take what the county executive or the staff report said and went with it. And I said, we're watching, and I just want you to know it. And I'm saying thank you. They need to know we're paying attention.
Yeah. Listen, we're getting ready to wrap up. There's a couple of things that I want you to give some final comments. Anything that you would like to just leave the people with. Again, I'm going to say thank you to have both of you on here today. Like, it's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. The other thing that I like to do with the Naked Truth is actually, if there's any resource, because we're thinking about maybe somebody like me, like, where's a good place to start to get informed? If you had to kind of whittle it down to like, hey, start here. Here's a good place in order for you to really kind of get a good sense of the policies, get a good sense of like where the candidates stand on certain issues. Is there something that we can go to, a resource, a website, so on and so forth? So within each one of your wrapping up comments, if you can include that, if you have those, we'd appreciate it. We're going to start with Quentin, and then we'll close out with you, Kula.
Well, a great resource is me. The Q with Q.
Go on and plug it.
I mean, might as well.
Yes, Black man.
We on Instagram and TikTok. We talk policies and politics on a level to where everybody can understand. But no, seriously, if you want to get, I would say, if you want to get more knowledgeable about the people on the ballot, I like ballottopia.com. It'll let you know who is running for office, right? And then you take that name and then you go look at that person's website. Now, most do, I don't know about the RNC right now, they should have a list of policies that they want to do or things that they stand on. Sometimes it can be daunting, but reading is fundamental. So you read through those things to find out what they stand on, because they'll tell you, or they should tell you on their website, and then you weigh the two. So that's what I would just say. That is the most, I would say, easiest non-biased way, right? Because it's coming directly from the candidates themselves. But other than that, me personally, I like perusing the Washington Post, but that is going to be a whole assortment of stories. That's not just politics. It's a lot. And for me, I think you did a really good job with pairing us both, because it seems like Kula is very knowledgeable on the local side. I love the federal government. So that's my thing. So don't ask me too many things about local. So federal.
We try to round it out here. We try to get
I see what you did there. I see what you did there as we kept talking. So, but yeah, those are some great resources. And I would just say, exercise your right to vote. Again, for me and how I think about it, my tax dollars employ these people. I want to know what my money is doing. What is my money doing? My tax dollars employ you, and you make laws that I must abide by. So it is important for me to be civically engaged.
Yeah. Thank you. Kula.
Yeah.
Let's hear from you.
And I'll just say, and Quentin, I love me some Kahlua, but yeah, it's Kula.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't call you that all night.
I got some Kahlua at the house right now, but I just.
I was like, if you didn't say it, I was gonna say it. So I was gonna wait. Go ahead.
It's all good. No, it's all good. It's all love. In terms of resources, again, so I'm gonna go with the local bent. So BWAPA does a voting guide with the Sacramento Sister Circle. So if you go to, I think it's sacsistercircle.com/vote. We do a voter guide that is fun. It is through the lens of Black women, because if you get it right for Black women, you get it right, okay? And so we put that voter guide out there. We have quotes from Insecure. We make it real fun. And it's actually widely read. We have a save the date out because people are asking when is it coming out? When is it coming out? And we go down the whole ballot, right? Also, on a more consistent basis, I just launched something called the Social Justice Politicorps. It's like the Peace Corps, but it's for politics, where we're really crowdsourcing politics. So going to the different meetings and trying to pull into a resource of what's happening. We publish it every 2 weeks. It comes out, and we usually have a theme, and it's a way for you to keep consistently engaged and know what's happening. Again, that consistency is so important. And we're also going to be coming out with a report card, not this election cycle, but later on, because our report card is going to be just as powerful as the NRA, but for the other side, so you can know who's right. Anyway, so yeah, and I wanted to say, just take care of yourself, everybody. It's a lot. And so just take care of yourself.
It is a lot.
Once again, I want to thank both of my guests. Kula Koenig and Quentin Jiles, you all are amazing. I want to thank all of our audience members out there who have participated with your comments and then just with being here. Know that we are here every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. I just want to thank, first of all, this is our new format. So I have to give a huge shout out to my brand new technical producer, Julius J.U. Jones. So all of the things that you're seeing that is happening technically and aesthetically with this show, that's my guy over there. If you were on time, y'all, be on time, 9 o'clock, you heard the brand new, hear what I'm talking, the brand new theme song for the Naked Truth Experience, written, produced, and performed by none other than Rashad McPherson, y'all. I'm so excited. When I heard it yesterday, it made me cry. You're going to hear the outro, so I want y'all to hear it on the way out when the credits roll. And then I got to give a huge shout out to Jason Ferris out there in Atlanta, Georgia with High Def Images, who takes care of all of my photography and a lot of my graphics design, y'all. This is a team effort. We are here to stay. Now, listen, we're here every Thursday, so we've got a whole lineup here, September shows. Next week, we are going to be talking about melanin and mental health, specifically about suicide prevention. Next Thursday is World Suicide Prevention Day, so please, please, please tune in over there. Remember to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Remember to like our Facebook channel. Remember to follow us on Instagram, y'all. And remember to please, please, please join the community with The Naked Truth Experience Facebook group. As I always say, y'all, I love you and thank you. Everyone, have a good night. And I'll see you next Thursday.
True.